my God, we're glowing.
It's like, is this thing on? Oh, we're all like in the corner. I guess we need to move over a bit.
We're glowing. And Cynthia made us white t-shirts.
There we go.
That's okay.
There we go.
So I will, on Facebook, this is going to be live. Yeah, we're
It's going to be? It's live
Well,
now.
it is live now, but I'm also going to save the video so that you can watch it later if you want to learn more about NISA and Anthony Bourdainday and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll also post pictures of what our shirts look like without the white glare from the video. So Cynthia was kind enough to make us Flying for Flavor t-shirts. And we all have Anthony Bourdain quotes on the back.
Which again, you can't see, but we'll post pictures.
We'll post pictures because it's really cute.
Okay, well, I think that around Stace.
Stacey's the best.
says, I'm a big believer in improvising and getting lost. Absolutely. I read mine.
And Cynthia says, you take something with you, hopefully you leave something good behind.
And Stephanie says, I would like to see the pumpkin spice craze drowned in its own blood.
For those of you who watch Flying for Flavor and actually understand my hate for the pumpkin spice latte craze,
You will know.
it was more than fitting.
She had a beautiful travel quote chosen, and then I saw this one. I said, nope, this one's you. You have
It
no
is
choice.
me. Anyways, welcome to Flying for Flavor. We're here live at the Fromagerie in Sudbury on Elgin Street. Okay, background story. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. Okay, a lot of time on Twitter. It's my rabbit hole. And I also happen to follow two of Anthony Bourdain's closest chef friends, Chef Jose Andres and Chef Eric Rupert. And they were both promoting today as something special and not to be sorrow for those who really followed and appreciated everything that Anthony Bourdain did around the globe. Meaning, he traveled the world, he tried everything, he talked to everybody, he went to places that people don't normally go, he talked to people in the industry and surrounding it that nobody usually talked to or ignored sometimes. He was a stickler for just being a human being in this world. And it was one of those things that really affected me when he passed last year. And so when I saw this opportunity show up on Twitter saying that let's just celebrate and be happy and all the positive things that he left behind, that it was a perfect opportunity because here at Flying for Flavor we're all about eating, drinking, traveling, and just being human and being ourselves. That's kind of what we do, unedited of course. And we thought it was kind of a fitting thing just to get together and sort of share some stories about what he did for the world, what we liked, some funny things, and have an excuse to eat cake and drink. How's that?
I like cake.
I like cake.
And we're also supporting a wonderful.
We are. So we're here supporting NISA, which is Northern Initiative for Social Action here in Sudbury. Being that Anthony struggled with mental health, I thought was a fitting try-in, and that was thankfully Cynthia's suggestion to do that.
I'll get into it more.
Yeah, she'll get into a little bit more. I just want to talk a little bit more about the whole idea of this podcast that I started. Oh my gosh, so much in 2 years, right? 2 years of me chattering for every week. But one of the reasons I wanted to do it is because I was already starting to basically eat and drink my way around the globe. Not to the extent that he did, and without the whole camera crew and everything. Basically, my husband was my cameraman. The crew of one. My husband is still my cameraman. But he tends to drink and eat with me when we go. But I always wanted to go out and see and try new things and bring them back and share what I found with other people. So I didn't have the same platform that he did, but I was inspired, and Norm and I used to sit down, and every time there was an episode of No Reservations, we watched back episodes for certain locations prior to us going to that location, because we didn't want to watch these standard travel logs, look up the standard Google things, we didn't want to do the standard reviews. We wanted to see the behind-the-scenes things of what could be possible at those locations. So it actually was sort of our own little travel guide, and he was kind of like our tour guide through all our travels through the last 34 countries, something like that. I can't remember the list anymore. Anyways, so it was, it still is sort of motivating, and we still go back to those episodes. I read most of his books. I love the way that he wrote, because it not only was artistic, but it was very raw and real, and it was a way to express himself in a way that anybody would be able to understand and appreciate. And he wasn't, and I love the fact that he wasn't a snob, right?
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that he had friends that worked in kitchens and that were cleaning and that worked in hotels and in chambermaids, and he was kind to people he went, but he was also real enough to know when he was just cranky, he was just cranky.
I loved, so I only really got, I mean, I'd heard of Anthony Bourdain for years, and I'd heard of Kitchen Confidential, and I'm like, I lived that, I don't really need to read a book about it.
But the book's really good.
It's very, very, very real. But then, of course, with his death last year, it came a bit more to the forefront with the stuff that we've been doing with this show, and the fact that we do a similar, without quite as extravagant kind of concept. And that realness was really big for me. And so when I read about his mental health struggles and some of the things he'd done, I finally went and read the book and was like, oh my God, I lived this. Except not quite as the executive chef. I was more the front server in the front. And a house girl who had to make sure she made friends with all the line cooks and prep cooks because they're the ones with the power.
They are, and that's the whole thing. I mean, the hospitality industry is, come on in, have a seat. No, don't apologize. This is, honestly, this is as loose as we're gonna get. So today is supposed to be about fun. We don't want to talk about all the sad stories, so I'll just share a couple of my favorite episodes or things that I remember over the years. Because I have some Russian heritage, I was telling her about this in the car the other day. Some of my favorite episodes, one of the first times I think he was in Russia, his tour guide, and they always had arranged a local to be their point of contact that would arrange interviews and appointments and set things and be a resource in those places, like a resource and a guide. And it's surprisingly, so there's this little short, cranky Russian guy was his host one of the first times he was over there, and they've ended up becoming friends. And this guy shows up on future episodes in other series he did over the years, which is hilarious. And there was one where it kind of reminded me of like stories about my grandfather and uncles about how they would go into the saunas and basically drink vodka by shots and then race out into the cold, dip into the ice water, and then turn around and then go back again. And they would just spend the entire day doing that. And he was so desperately trying to keep up shot for shot with those regulars and the locals that were there. It was absolutely hilarious. So that was probably one of my favorite ones. And then my other favorite one, because I'm a big fan of Spanish food, he actually went to, I think it was one of his last visits to Spain, was up to the San Sebastian and Barcelona area. And I just happened to get to go to San Sebastian not that long ago, so I rewatched that episode. And he went to Adria and Arzak, which is one of the most famous Michelin star restaurants in San Sebastian. And it was one of their last big dinners they were doing there, so he got the privilege of sitting with these chefs for this amazing meal. And the entire episode, he's beyond just grateful to be there. He's oohing and awing like he's never had meals like this around these people. Like a little kid that finally got to go and have some of his favorite food. Like he's almost swinging his feet under the table. He's just giddy. And considering how much he's traveled, how many people he's met, all the places he went all over these years, the fact that he could still get that excited about sitting at a table and experiencing that, it kind of reminds you that every single time that you go out to eat something or you have an experience when you're traveling and meeting new people, it should still give you that excitement and that little butterflies in your stomach, right?
Absolutely.
Anyways, those are my two favorites.
Oh, and I guess I don't know if I have a favorite of his, except that I love his passion, and I loved his passion of traveling alone and having that adventure of trying to find something new and exciting. I've always traveled alone and myself being a travel agent, but also having an appreciation for the food. And I mean, I'm traveling a little bit behind you with the countries, maybe around the 25 mark. And so I sit there and I think, yeah, I've always thought about, I always watch the stuff. Well, where do I want to go next? Thailand is on my mark next. And watching some of those episodes where he actually walked the streets and, take that walk next. And rather than going for the safety of what we know, step out, see what the locals do, enjoy what they do. And that's where I found you were talking earlier about how he was very humble. He was, because if you want to know something when you're traveling, go to the locals. Step out, go to the locals and ask them where the best restaurant is, and whether you're on an island and all. So find out where you're going, what you're doing, find out where to go. And you're going to find the best thing from the people who are actually living there. And that's what I found from his passion of going and loving the people that he supported and what he was doing. It's just a passion and supporting passion.
It is.
For me, it was, so I watched the very first episode of No Reservations.
Is that what you were messaging me?
And so did we make it through the whole episode, Mark? I think we finally had to turn it off. And I texted Steph and I'm like, what the actual did I just watch? And she said, what do you mean? This first episode was much more, it was very like rock star experiments. I think you had to be high to watch it and really appreciate it.
You have to watch old Italian cinema and really be a fan of punk rock to actually appreciate some of his episodes.
It was fascinating. So that wasn't really so much for me, but I did actually watch the Sicily episode. And when you talked about going to the locals, and it was actually a really funny episode because I love that he was unedited. The same way we should probably be more edited, but we're not. At one point, so he's got these like front folks who go and they set up all the kind of experiences for him because that's the magic of television. This shit doesn't just happen; it actually has to be kind of set up. So they were. I know, I swore. I promised I'd try not to, and it didn't work. So in this particular one, they were going snorkeling, and they were fishing while they were snorkeling for squid and local fish, etc., cuttlefish, that kind of stuff. And so, and quite frankly, my language would be far less than his was because he was angry. There was a whole lot of beeping in this episode. Because when he got in the water, all of a sudden he started seeing these splashes coming down. And so the tour guide had arranged for someone in another boat to be throwing frozen dead seafood in the water for him to catch or fish for, and expected him not to notice that these were dead octopi, and squid and cuttlefish. They weren't moving around, they were dead, they just sunk to the bottom. And so the more that they came, it was at one point I think the guy was just tired of throwing them and he just dumped a whole bucket in. The rest just kind of came down, and he was so angry. He got out of the water, didn't talk to anyone, went straight to the local pub and got hammered out of his tree. So for the rest of his appointments that day, he was basically slurring his words, and his interviews were a little less dynamic than they typically are. But it was that realness. He's like, how on earth did they think that I wouldn't notice I've traveled to all of these countries and I cooked all this food? I wouldn't notice that they're throwing frozen dead fish in at me for my authentic adventure. So it was kind of funny to see that. And then he went to a couple of Sicilian restaurants and was like, this is not authentic Sicilian. This is not Sicilian. This is not Sicilian. He was getting frustrated. And I think his best experience in that episode was he went to one of his tour guide's mom's house. And Nona made dinner for him that day. He's like, this is real Sicilian food. And that idea of getting to be with a local who's not a super fancy chef, who's not making $1 million, but just someone who's cooking that authentic food is what he was looking for.
You know what I found about him too is in his episodes, he'd always say he'd be going out on the street food basically. He'd go and try all these different things. And he would say, you know, a lot of us are usually really scared about getting sick and trying to, I'll let you know tomorrow how I'm doing. And you know what? That's the passion and adventure I think that I fell in love with him, was because he was just like, throw it to the wind. You know what? Everyone else, we can all actually have that immune system and that quality that we're okay with.
It probably built up his immune system.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's things out there that we can do so we can do the same thing, but you know.
Okay, that's a leper, so we're not talking about medication and stuff today.
No, I'm not.
Years of drug use. He's pickled all his body parts and he's getting them.
Yes, exactly. So today it wasn't going to be all about just doing that stuff, talking about funny episodes and stories, but we want to talk about mental health awareness. That was one of the driving factors behind this. So yes, we are here to talk about NISA. So it's an organization that not only supports mental health, but it actually employs and brings the people who are struggling with mental health into society in a very real and human way. Kind of gets rid of that stigma that's sometimes there, to sort of remind them and remind us that they are just a part of the community like we are.
Yeah, and it's not about, this part of the show is not about getting depressive or bored or sad or crying or any of those things. I think it's more about, so when we first decided to take part in Bourdainday, again, because we're all fans and it's a fun excuse to get together and talk to people. But for me, it was a big deal because mental health is really close kind of cause, and I hate to use say cause, but it's you know, in our home, 3 out of 4 of us have mental health diagnoses, and I'm pretty open about my struggles with, I don't go on and on, but then I do struggle with depression and anxiety myself. And I discovered NISA, about 4 or 5 years ago now. By accident, I had a friend who was a director there at the time, and I learned about it. And when Steph mentioned this episode and said, well, maybe, you know, we should tie it in with a charity because we like to find ways to support our local charities. And I said, well, you know what, I'd really like to reach out to NISA and explain a little bit about what it was, both from my perspective, of course, because it's not just about how Anthony Bourdain died, but also how he lived. And he was pretty open about his struggles. You read about it in his books. He didn't always put a name to it, but he was open to the struggles he had and that he did self-medicate through drugs and alcohol. So NISA I wanted to highlight because of the things that they're doing here in Sudbury. Stephanie mentioned that they do employ people who are also diagnosed and self-diagnosed, not self-diagnosed, but self-declared having mental health issues. But the other thing that I wanted to highlight is that they're run by and for people who've lived experience of mental health challenges, madness, or mental illness. Their motto is being, belonging, becoming. So again, there's nothing in there about struggling or difficulty. It's just about realizing what everyone can do. And there's this stigma that if you've got mental health issues, that you are not a fully functioning, capable person within the world. And I'm here to say I'm functioning okay so far. And quite frankly, you'll see that a lot of people in history who are like the creative, the innovators, a lot of them struggle with things as well. And I think that's anything that adds to our ability to be creative. And I say a little bit of crazy in the nicest way, although it's not the most correct way to put it. So a bit more, I'm just going to read a little bit from here to make sure that I get all clear. Thanks very much to Daniela Perry for providing this information, to Carly for being here today. She's hiding in the back. But it was created to give people...
She's behind the camera.
Yeah, she's behind the
iPad.
Also, I'm waving at her, not just randomly at people. It was created to give people a place and space to work on their mental health recovery and develop new skills and goals. And it's meant to be a place of active recovery, not passive dependence on the system. And I love that very much. And we were talking about one of their programs. That was the Food is Mood program, correct? And where people come in and they're making their own food and then they have the opportunity to eat it. But it's not a place where you just go in and get food. It's like if you want to eat, well, you're going to have to cook it. It's a great way for some people who are struggling and might not have the skills to prepare a meal. They have the opportunity to learn how to do it. All of NISA's programs are free. And they don't have waiting lists. You don't have to call them and then wait 6 months to a year like I have to do with all the programs for my daughter. My soapbox a little bit. Actually, both my kids, we've had waiting lists many, many times. And it's like, well, you know, my kid doesn't need help in a year. They need help now. So a lot of their programs, most of the programs, I believe, don't have waiting lists. You can walk in and work with people. It's a very positive, amazing space to be in. If you walk in, actually have a piece of their artwork, I would say on my wall, but my son stole it. Because it was a really cool painting of a skull with black and red, and I was going to put it in my studio, and he went, oh, I like that, Mom, it's going up in my room. So that's where it is now. In addition to that, even the atmosphere there, when you walk in, it just feels welcoming and open and super cool. And I think it's amazing to have a space like that. One of their big programs that they wanted to highlight, which is super cool, is peer support. And it's that, again, that idea of people who live this experience helping others who are struggling within that experience as well. And it's one thing to talk to therapists and counselors and all these amazing professionals who have the knowledge of what is happening to support you. It's another thing to speak to someone who has lived experience, and that's a really special program as well. Like we do in a lot of these things, we want to talk about if you do need help. If anyone is feeling challenged by distressful thoughts or thoughts of suicide, NISA offers a support group twice a month called Alternatives to Suicide. The group is anonymous, and it's a safe place for people to talk about their thoughts and others who've been in the same place before. And together they discuss strategies for living. And that brings me to a quote actually from Anthony Bourdainday that I wanted to share on the subject of his mental health, because I thought it was really interesting. And again, it made me a little bit sad after I heard that he passed. Sorry. To my phone, it was so smooth till I got to that part. Like that cool. Okay. That's not the one I lied. Oh, here we go. Okay. So, and this comes from actually, I believe it was his episode in Argentina, where he actually went to a therapist. I have to admit, I found the episode bothered me a little bit because it was a little bit of like sarcasm, and, you know, in his delivery, it had the very dry kind of. So it's hard to tell if he was serious about some of the things he was saying.
He was probably trying to make light of it so it didn't become so dark.
And like, quite frankly, many men of his generation who, you know, don't acknowledge, or, you know, that's all in your head, or you should just cheer up or calm down or whatever and everything is fine. It's a pretty natural reaction, I think, to someone who's struggling with it in his generation. And it's getting better and better. And again, on a positive note, we're seeing it with our kids where they're able to openly discuss these things. And I'm able to openly discuss it with other parents as well. And it's pretty cool to see how we get these conversations. So while filming, he sat down with a therapist and described how insignificant things, something as simple as an airport hamburger, could trigger a spiral of depression that would last for days. I feel kind of like a freak, and I feel kind of isolated, he said. It wasn't the only time he hinted at darkness. In 2017, he spoke briefly of his psychotic rage, saying, "I was an unhappy soul. I hurt, disappointed, and offended many people, and it's a shame I have to live with." That said, then he comes on and he says, "You know what, I say that I'm living the dream. I have the best job in the world, I'm very grateful for that, and I don't plan on walking away from that any time. I can assure you, but it comes at a cost." Lastly, he spoke of his daughter last year, saying that he felt some responsibility to, quote unquote, try to live for her. I always feel I do have things to live for. There have been times in my life that I figured I've had a good run, why not just do this stupid thing, the selfish thing, jump off a cliff into water of indeterminate depth. And it's interesting because those would normally be red flags that you'd be going, what's going on? Can we get this man help? And he was very open and very honest about his struggles. And we know that he had had sought help and had worked with people. And I think if you're always kind of focusing on that and finding a way, knowing that there are people around you that love you and care and are here to help, organizations like NISA and some of the other hotlines that I'd like to tag on the end of this. So take a look at the comments under this episode, and we'll share some other resources where you can get help if you are struggling. So that was our kind of sad kind of part of it. But the reality is, look at these amazing people again and the things that they can do. So just because you are struggling with your mental health, there is help around. There are things, people who care, and there are things you can do to be pretty awesome.
So a lot of people who are coming here tonight, you can donate to NISA at any time. You can either, if you were here in Sudbury, you can do that. If you go to the link to our Facebook event and go where there's tickets, it's not actually tickets, but we actually have the donation window open again for another 45 days. So if you didn't get to make it tonight and you wanted to support this great organization, you can do so by basically just logging on to there, and you can pay by any method online. It's anonymous, discreet, and then they'll send the donations directly to NISA, where they can actually help provide more of these programs at no cost to people in the community.
And I should clarify that NISA was set up for a not-for-profit charitable organization in 1998. And if you are donating directly to NISA, they do offer charitable receipts for donations of $25 or more. And those folks who are here live with us today, we do have a bag that'll come around a little bit later if you'd like to make a donation to NISA. We're more than happy to accept it and pass it off to Carly.
It just looks like it's a white flying for flavor bag, because, you know, I have to still have it in our little prize kit. Speaking of prizes, that's a sad segue. Anybody here want to win prizes? Okay, so Cynthia's got some little trivia stuff, and then while she's doing that, Stacy and I will go and hand out prizes to those who get the answers, and then we'll do cake, because I figured that's cake and alcohol. That seems to be the perfect way to sort of finish this up, right? Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. Oh, I'm on the spot. Let me pull it up.
Actually, all your prizes things in there?
The prizes are in there. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the box is all the little individual ones. No, in there. In your bag. Yeah, pull the box out. Technical. Oh my God! All of a sudden I'm all over on the video.
This box?
Pressure now. Yeah. So open that up, and you'll see all the little ones I was telling you about.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And then the big one is in the bag. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anthony Bourdain was born in New York City and raised in New Jersey. But which family vacation destination kindled his love of food? And I'll actually, she doesn't even need options. Fire away.
Can I say the country or just say
Yes.
France?
Woohoo! We got a winner, chicken dinner. And
Yeah, you can go.
so Bourdain
we'll give her a
trained
couple
in the
of those.
Culinary Institute of America, has his own French style, or had his own French style restaurant in New York City called Les Halles. Les Halles.
Yes.
Les Halles.
I've been there. Cool.
Of course she has.
Of course I have.
So, you know, we got like 30-some countries, 20-some countries, I think, what, 5? As I look at my husband, 6?
Well, you lived in one for a few years.
I
It's not
did
like
live in
you've
one
never
for a few
been.
years, yes. Bourdain is probably best known for his bestseller, Kitchen Confidential, Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly, which is the one that I've read. But which of these other books is Bourdain not responsible for writing? And Stacey, you're right in front of everybody.
Okay, move on out.
Okay, your first option is called Gone Bamboo. The second one is called Bone in the Throat. The third one is called The Nasty Bits. And the fourth one is called The Man Who Ate Everything. Which one did he not write? Take a guess.
Should I read them again?
Yeah, I can read them again for sure. Gone Bamboo, Bone in the Throat, The Nasty Bits, I just like saying that. The nasty bits. And the man who ate everything. Take a guess.
Second one.
Wait, let me see what the bone in the throat. That's when you're picking.
Yeah.
The nasty bits. And I even gave you guys a huge hit because I kept saying it over and over again.
The nasty bits you wrote?
That's my answer. The man who ate everything.
Thank you. Wait a minute. I know he wrote that book because I wrote that one. I read that one.
Okay, Stephanie gets it right. He's written 3 books of fiction.
I get a prize.
He's written 3 books of fiction and 6 non-fiction books. But culinary critic Jeffrey Steingarten wrote The Man Who Ate Everything. I don't know why I'm here. I just ask the questions. I don't actually get them right. Okay. Bourdain's first television show, A Cook's Tour, was, in his words, my first stumbling nascent attempts at making travel food television. On which television network, which Bourdain is not very fond of, did this show run? The Travel Channel, TLC, Discovery Channel, or the Food Network? I heard 2 answers. The Food Network.
Well done.
35 episodes of A Cook's Tour were made, and they originally ran from 2001 to 2002. Bourdain's book, A Cook's Tour, is a companion to the show.
You're welcome.
After his experiences with A Cook's Tour, everyone, we're going to her place for lobster tonight. After experiences with A Cook's Tour, Bourdain went on to create a new show, Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations, which was the weird punk rocky first episode, but I'm looking forward to watching the rest. The show has seen him travel all over the world. Which of these destinations has been the focus of one of the show's episodes? So only one of these has been featured. South Carolina, Kansas City, Turkey, or Sydney, Australia?
Turkey.
Wrong answer.
Sydney, Australia.
Wrong answer. There's only 2 left,
There's only
guys.
2 left, people.
Kansas City.
Wrong answer. Okay, so the answer is South Carolina. Well, Bourdain visited Kansas City briefly in A Cook's Tour. He has not stopped in yet on Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations. The South Carolina episode was in the 3rd season of the show. That's funny. On No Reservations, Bourdain has eaten many
Sound
unusual
effects.
foods. Which of these has he not sampled on the show? Beating cobra heart, seal eyeball, haggis, or warthog rectum?
Not the last one again.
Warthog rectum.
They all sound
Right.
What was the first one?
Okay, so again, so on No Reservations, which of these shows has he not sampled? Beating cobra heart, seal eyeball, haggis, or warthog rectum? Wrong.
Well, then it's the first one.
Not seal eyeball.
No, seal eyeballs is that, for sure.
So the answer is beating cobra heart. Well, he has actually
Did you
eaten
get
it.
that?
Yeah, I'll get it.
I had polka dots.
He actually ate the beating cobra heart on A Cook's Tour, not No Reservations. And it was fascinating to watch because when I watched the Sicilian episode, they actually slaughtered a live pig on the show, and then butchered it right there, and then cooked the entrails basically while the carcass was hanging. It was, yeah. Bless them. How's everybody's meal as I'm talking about warthog rectums and seal eyes? Okay. Number 6. Anthony Bourdain is a well-respected chef in his own right, but he also holds many of his peers. He also has many peers whom he holds in high regard. Which of these chefs is not one whom Bourdain admires? Gordon Ramsay, Mario Batali, Rachel Ray, or Thomas Keller?
Okay, sorry, that should be an easy one. That should be an easy one.
Stephanie probably shouldn't have laughed so hard during that.
Sorry, I laughed at the end of all 4.
Rachel Ray, yes.
Oh, that's so sad because it's the only woman on the list.
It
Right?
is the only woman on the list.
I'm with
but-
you on that one, to be completely honest. Bourdain, while outspoken in
Oh,
support of chefs like
give him one
Ramsay
that
and
you think is
Batali,
appropriate for
is
him.
equally as verbose in his dislike of Rachel Ray. Bourdain has been harsh in his joking at celebrity chefs in general, though he has warmed up to Emerald Lagasse, although still finding his show unwatchable. And I actually think what it is less about, and I'm with you on, because I'm a huge feminist, so I really, really do pick on the girl. I think it's less about it being Rachel Ray and more about being the celebrity chefs who may not necessarily own their own restaurants, but they're on TV doing their thing. So, right or wrong, apparently he just was not a fan. On Anthony Bourdain, no reservations. Bourdain is often shown using profanity, drinking, and smoking. I like this guy. Nothing. Never mind. I didn't say that. Which one of these vices did he give up for the birth of his daughter? Drinking, profanity, smoking, or none of them?
None of them.
No. Smoking.
Oh, who said smoking over here?
Me.
Oh,
But you don't have to be me.
oh no, we got pride, no.
Okay.
I guessed.
It
was a good guess.
It was a good guess.
That's the whole
I
idea
found
of
it really
this.
interesting because he did battle addiction, which we commented is often a way a comorbidity almost of mental health or mental illness, and that even though he was able to kick his heroin habit and his cocaine habit, that he continued to drink his whole life and was okay with it. Anthony Bourdain has visited many cities and met many people while on his travels for no reservations, but only one episode has netted him an Emmy nomination. Which one was it? This is pretty obscure. Hong Kong, Las Vegas, Beirut, or New York City?
New York City.
Nope.
What'd you say? I say Las Vegas.
Nope.
Hong Kong.
Nope. The answer was Beirut.
Really? I thought it was Hong Kong. Even I didn't get that one.
Anthony Bourdain is not just limited to the shows he produces. He has also guested on a number of other television shows. Which one of these did he not appear on? Miami Inc., Emerald Live, Top Chef, or Bizarre Foods?
I didn't quite get the first one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can read them again, no problem. Miami Inc., Emerald Live, Top Chef, or Bizarre Foods?
Top Chef.
Nope.
I go first to Miami.
Miami Inc., he has appeared.
Quite a bit of it.
Then it's got to be the last one.
Bizarre Foods? Nope. So the answer was Emerald Live. So even though he warmed up to Emerald, he still never appeared on his show. So he was a guest judge on Top Chef. He got a skull tattoo on Miami Inc. And he also appeared in the New York City episode on Andrew Zimmerman's travel show, Bizarre Foods. See, you learn a new thing every day. I learned all 10 of these questions this trip. Anthony Bourdain's most famous restaurant is Les Halles. I have a hard time saying it. Les Halles. Les Halles. But it took him many stops on the culinary path to end up there. Which of these restaurants has Bourdain not put time on? So which restaurant has he not worked at? Sullivan's, 1 Fifth Avenue, New York City Supper Club, or the Mesa Grill?
I want to answer. Me too.
Sorry?
She's asking you to repeat them, sorry.
Oh, yep, no problem. Sullivan's, 1 Fifth Avenue, New York City Supper Club, or Mesa Grill?
Sullivan.
Nope.
Third one.
New York City Supper Club?
1 Fifth Avenue.
And the correct answer, Stephanie, is
Mesa Grill.
Mesa Grill. Those are all
I
my
knew that one.
questions.
I knew that one. Okay.
If it's any consolation, I actually did this quiz
You
before
got
we
your-
started, and I got 5 out of 10, so I was much better.
I mean, I've watched most of the episodes over the years, and I don't think I got some of those. Or I assumed that I had them.
You
and I didn't.
assume.
I
You
assumed.
don't have to you assume so.
Make them, yeah. Okay, so before we go do cake, I just want to thank people for coming out. So at least, even if you just here for a few minutes, yes, we got home a prize. We probably have a couple of things we can hand out to people who are here and did win something. Make sure you support NISA. We'll have volunteers walking around if you want to go and throw some money in our little flavor bag, so we can kind of just helps this great community organization a little bit more. And then it's about time, before we get to cake, it's about time for Stacey's closing. For those of you who watch the show, Stacey's gonna, you can do it.
I would like to point out that I did a Stacy version last time, and I was so proud.
She did it really hard. She was like emphasizing the hand movements, and she tried.
You
can just
don't
do it. You
need
can
a
just
guide.
wing it. Look at the camera and just tell them all about us.
In the meantime, please subscribe to all of our podcasts and our episodes on YouTube and these wonderful things. And share. Don't forget to share because sharing is caring, like NISA does.
Okay, so that's the Lounge About Way. So we're on all podcast players, and if you're in the States, including Radio 1. And then, of course, we're on the YouTube channel. This is actually playing live on our Facebook event. I'm going to download it, and I will have it on our video section on the Facebook page, and I'll also include it on our YouTube channel so that you can watch it later. And again, if you have any, if you want to donate to a great cause to our NISA organization here locally in Sudbury, make sure to click on the event link, and I'll provide it as well in the YouTube one, so that you can go on for the next 45 days and donate to them as well. I think it's time for cake, ladies.
Cake. Who's singing?
Someone's gonna roll that over this way.
Oh, we rolling it? Okay.
Yeah, just turn it this way so you can see it. Probably the lake's gonna be really bad though. It means sparklers.
No, it's actually better.
Is it?
Woo! Yeah, it is better.
How's the fire alarm in here?
We'll find out.
Why isn't this sparkling?
Oh, you gotta hold it forever.
Okay, well, I'm not good at this.
Caleb loves lighting candles.
And it's
This all of mine, yeah.
There it goes.
And then by the time you get the last one lit, the first one will be done.
Okay, even if I got two. Okay. And on a cardboard thing, this should be fun.
I guess we're not blowing up now.
It'd be very punk-rock of us to set things on fire. Okay, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tony. Happy birthday to you. I am terrible at doing this. All right, anyways, we got lots of cake. That's all we need. We have drinks. Thanks for watching. Support NISA, support your local mental health organization, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on Flag Flavor. Bye.